Hello everyone, welcome or welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for being here. Today I will be sharing with you my recommendations for books with unhinged main characters. And when I'm saying unhinged, I truly do mean mentally unstable and deranged. Now, without any further ado, let me tell you about the first recommendation that I have for today, and that is Perfume by Patrick Süskind. Please keep in mind that I read this book more than 10 years ago, so the details are a bit fuzzy, but the action is set in the 18th century France, and we are following our main character who, from childhood, had a very heightened sense of smell. So, his hobby and later on his profession is to develop perfumes. And as he experiments more and more, he really becomes keen on the idea to create perfumes that emulate the smell of specific objects like doorknobs and like bizarre things like that. And as he's doing that, he becomes more and more obsessed with the idea of creating like the ultimate perfume. And in his mind, that would be a perfume that would smell like or resemble a beautiful young virgin. So he does some pretty questionable things to achieve his goal throughout the novel. Pretty terrifying, but from what I remember is very well written. So this is Perfume by Patrick Süskind. My next recommendation is Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I think a lot of people already have read this book, but I cannot stress enough how marvelous this book is. We are following our main character June, who is a writer, but unfortunately she doesn't really have that much success with her books. Her debut pretty much flopped. It was not that well received, so she's working on her new book, but she has problems with her editor and they don't really think that her ideas are that great. We also get to meet her somewhat friend from college, Athena, who is a very successful writer, and she is very well received in literary circles. She's acclaimed and she is this like new literary star, let's say. Sometimes they go out for drinks, and in this one night, after they go to a bar to get some drinks, they decide to go back to Athena's place to continue the party there, basically. And in the middle of the night, they are pretty drunk and they want to make matcha pancakes. Athena is choking on a pancake and dies. And this is not a spoiler, this happens in the very first chapters of the book. What is pretty funny but also like terrifying and really bizarre is that at the beginning of the story, we are led to believe that Athena is this very eccentric writer. She writes all of her books on a typewriter and she doesn't really let anyone read the books until they're finished. In her apartment, she's showing June her new manuscript that she's trying to finish. After Athena dies, June is pretty much stealing her manuscript and she is trying to make slight changes, slight modifications to that manuscript and pass it to her editor as her own work. But not only that, what is also super strange is that that specific manuscript is centered upon a historic event from China's history. I forget exactly what it is, but it has something to do with the history of China. So for Athena, that makes sense because she's Chinese, but for June, it doesn't really make any sense and it comes across as being an appropriation because she's not Chinese and she's writing from the perspective of someone who's from that cultural space, basically. When you're reading this book, please keep in mind that this is meant to be a satire, so don't take it too seriously because there's a very specific point in the story where things are starting to become very unbelievable, let's say. So as you're reading it, just try to keep that in mind that this is not that serious and it's intended to be a critique on today's publishing industry. If you have not read Yellowface, please do so because this is just marvelous. It's written very well and I think you're gonna have a great time reading it. Yellowface. My next recommendation is The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. You can pretty much tell from the cover and also from the back illustration what is happening in this book. So we are following our main character who is, I'm pretty sure, in her early 20s, and she's basically seeing as her family is falling apart. Her dad cheated on her mom, and obviously they're getting separated, they're getting divorced. Her mom is not in a great mental state, obviously, following those events. And as the time goes by, her mom makes a boyfriend. Now, the issue is that her mom is Korean and she starts dating a white guy who is the douchiest of white guys that you could ever meet. And because he was visiting Korea at some point, he just thinks that he understands their culture and their language, and he is trying to speak with them in Korean, but basically they can't understand anything that he's saying. It's like super bizarre, a very strange situation, but our main character is trying to be understanding because she knows what her mother went through with her dad. So she's not saying anything to her mom. The weird part is that when they're grabbing dinner, her mother has this superstition that they have to eat the eyes of the fish because in Korean culture is meant as a good omen. And because of that, our main character somehow grows to be obsessed with her mom's boyfriend's eyes, blue eyes more specifically. So throughout this whole book, our main character will not stop until she kills her mom's boyfriend and eats his eyes. You can read this one pretty quickly because it is just under 300 pages and the text is big, the chapters are short, so I think this is pretty manageable. The eyes are the best part by Monica Kim. My next recommendation is Lula Dean's Little Library of Banned Books by Kirsten Miller. The title, pretty self-explanatory. So in this one, we are following this character, Lula Dean, as she is trying to ban books in her like little town from, I think they're in Georgia somewhere. Yes, Troy, Georgia. Now, the problem with this is that the books that she's trying to ban are not problematic. They're just providing like a different perspective on gender, on feminism, and stuff like that. And this is obviously pretty harmful to this community and to the children that are growing up in this community. And just to give you an example of the books that she has deemed as to be banned. So we have Beloved by Toni Morrison, Anne Frank, The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank, Mouse by Art Spiegelman. I should really reread Mouse because I have read it in school, but I kind of forgot what it is about. I know it's like a graphic novel. What else? We have All Boys Are in Blue by George M. Johnson, Genderqueer by Mayako Bobby, The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. So you could kind of tell what's going on. This is very on the nose and it's very clear from the beginning what this book is critiquing and what stance does it have on political matters that are happening in the USA specifically. There is a specific point in this book, more so towards the end of it, where things are starting to become pretty convoluted, let's say. So again, suspend your disbelief for a second when you're reading this because it starts to become convoluted as the things are progressing in this one. But I really like the message, the overall message. Yes, the details are a bit, but the message of it is a good one, I believe. And it showcases what could happen if we start banning certain things. If you read Fahrenheit 451 and you liked it, I think you would really like this one as well. This is Lula Dean's Little Library of Banned Books. This next one is a bit dusty. I am sorry for that. This is the one and only The Secret History by Donut Hart. I know this is quite popular. I know that everyone is recommending this book, but what can I say? This is just a masterpiece. In this one, we are following Richard Papin in his first year of university. He wants to study ancient Greek and Latin, and he is very focused and determined to get accepted into this course. The problem is the professor is very eccentric and he accepts only a specific number of students. He doesn't really let his students participate in any of the other courses that are provided by the university. So Richard's chances are very limited to get accepted into this elite group. He is becoming friends-ish with someone that is already part of this group, and they are able to help him get accepted. And once he starts participating in this ancient languages course, he is getting enthralled into their madness, let's just say. Pretty much all of the characters from this book are unhinged, probably with the exception of Judy Poovey. I don't think Judy Poovey did anything wrong, and honestly, I will not stand any Judy Poovey slander on this channel. So Judy Poovey, slay, we love her. The other ones, we love to hate them. If you want to read it but you're thinking like, oh my god, this is very long, I would highly recommend the audiobook for this one because it's narrated by Donna Tartt herself. And there's this one character, his name is Bunny. Well, not his actual name, but this is the nickname that they use in the book. His name is Bunny, and she has this voice for Bunny that is just like so funny because it makes sense with his personality. It kind of sounds like Mickey Mouse, and it's the craziest thing that you've ever heard. So the audiobook is really good as well. This is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. Next up, I have We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. Not Temple, it's Jackson. Shirley Jackson. Okay. So this book is following our main character, Mary Cat, whose family was poisoned with sugar laced by arsenic 6 years prior to the events of this book. So right now, she only lives with her sister and their uncle in this mansion. It kind of gives off the Addams Family vibes if Wednesday would be the only survivor from that family, kind of. Our main character is very weird, very strange. The atmosphere that is described in this small town is very eerie. The people from the town hate this family and hate Mary Cat, and we don't actually know why that is, but after you read the book, you start thinking of the motives and what actually happened, because it's not like explicitly said what has happened in the past. It took a bit of time to grow on me because after I first read it, I was like, I really don't know what I think about this book. But the more time goes by, the more I start to see what this book did, and I think it's pretty good. So this is We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. My second to last recommendation for this video, this is Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk. I have read this one recently, and again, this is one of those books that I don't really know if I like it or not. But I think if you want to read something strange and eerie with beautiful descriptions of this small Polish town, but with like very, very weird characters and with things that, well, don't really make sense, this would be the book for that. So in this one, we are following our main character, Janina, who, by the way, doesn't like to be called that because she thinks that people aren't necessarily resembling their names that they were given at birth. So she has nicknames for everyone. So we are following Janina as she's living in this small Polish town that is very close to the border of Poland with the Czech Republic. Now, one day, Janina's neighbor turns out that he was murdered. And throughout this book, all of these murders are happening that just seem to be very convenient for our main character. That's all I'm gonna say because this is supposed to be a murder mystery, as well as commenting on animal cruelty and existentialism and stuff like that. The murder mystery element of this book, it was not that strong for me personally. Like, I was able to tell from the very beginning what was happening and who was doing the murders and stuff like that. But the other stuff that's commenting on animal cruelty, existentialism. Also, there are some very in-depth talks about astrology and stuff like that. Those were good. Those were fine. I enjoyed those elements of the book. So yeah, this is Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead. Don't know if I liked it, but I think it is an interesting read. And last but not least, this is a book that I have just finished like a couple of days ago, so it's very fresh in my mind. This is Revenge by Yoko Ogawa. This is actually a collection of 11 short stories. The overall book has just under 170 pages, so this is very short. You can definitely read it in a day if you want to do that. What's really interesting with this one, I don't know if it's just me or not, but with short story collections, I always have the expectation that the stories have to have something in common or to be connected somehow. They don't necessarily need to be connected from a character or plot standpoint, but I have the expectation for the stories to have at least a theme or a motive in common. I really, really like how this book is structured because we go through all of these stories and we meet all of these characters, and we very soon find out that all of them have, if not a character in common, at least like a location or a theme or a motif or stuff like that. Definitely the weirdest one, I think it's the one with the heart. I forget exactly what's the title of it. It's called Sewing for the Heart. And in this one, we are following a bag maker who is creating all of these handmade bags. And one day she has a customer that is requesting her to create a bag or like a sort of a case for her heart. She was born with her heart basically outside of her chest, and she's trying to protect it. I found the concept of all of these stories pretty unique and pretty fresh to read and to experience. I am very excited to read other things from this author because this book really made me excited to experience their writing and their stories. I have Mina's Matchbox and the Memory Police, I think it's called, or the Ministry. No, it's the Memory Police. I have both of those on my physical TBR, and I am very excited to read them soon. I highly recommend you read this one if you like the premise of it. This is Revenge by Yoko Okawa. And with that being said, these are my recommendations for books with unhinged characters. Please let me know if you have read any of these and what did you think about them, or if you yourself have recommendations for books with unhinged characters. I would like to know that and maybe to read some of those. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. And I will see you soon with a new video here on the channel. Bye guys.